koma vandu va putere lira lyange ni Freddy Ntimuli hano ni TV47 Morning Cafe. Inyanga ino ni International Mother Language Day.
Wakire bonsi nchenkoroku Stanley Nyeringita.
Yeah. You tried.
I tried.
Good one, good one. This is a Morning Cafe. How hot is a coffee where you are?
Oh yes, I'm used to Stanley Nyeringita. In case you're watching us from Germany and you didn't understand that Greek, karibu sana. This is a wonderful Wednesday and all the way from 10 a.m. tutakuwa na nyinyi hapa usibanduke. Hiyo pia ni mother language ya wale Coast.
Uko ndo unaelewa.
Yeni.
Let's take a quick look at the dailies this morning. The main headlines on the Standard: dead teachers paid millions. That's a big headline on the Standard today.
Moving on, Daily Nation: State House extra budget blocked.
Habari kuu kwenye Taifa Leo: magavana wakaidi serikali.
Tukiendelea kwenye People Daily, TSC paid 466 million Kenya shillings to dead teachers. We'll be telling you all that.
On the Business Daily, Financial Crimes Watchdog flags 86 billion shillings in 3 years.
And finally, on the Star, audit reports unearths 15.6 billion Kenya shillings wrought at REREC. Get to know what REREC is later on our newspaper review. But first, let's take a look at how hot the temperatures are from where you are. And actually, we're asking you, how are you coping? What are you doing to cope with the high temperatures? Today, I'm taking a look at different places. And I'll start with Meru, from where Comrade person Charles comes from. 16 degrees Celsius in Meru. Seems a little colder there. Promises to get as hot as 26 degrees Celsius. That's in Meru. If you go all the way to the northern counties rather, in Turkana, 28 degrees Celsius. Yes.
Wow.
And it says it feels like 31 degrees.
At 6 a.m.
At 6 a.m. Promises to get as hot as 36 degrees Celsius in Turkana. In Kisumu, Dala, 20 degrees Celsius. Promises to get as hot as 30 degrees Celsius. But then, as the Met Department was saying, these temperatures might be fluctuating.
And I've seen something interesting. Kakamega, is it Turkana? Maybe 30, but highs of 36 later on.
Yes.
There's a day when they'll actually be at 37.
There it is in Turkana.
Yes, tomorrow, Thursday. Even on Sunday, Saturday, highs of 37. On Tuesday next week, 38 degrees.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. What are you doing to cope with the high temperatures?
Oh, yes.
In that particular area?
All right, let's take a look at the highlights now. Close to half of the counties to experience high average daytime temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius and above this week, according to the weatherman.
MPs shift focus to National Dialogue Committee report after Affordable Housing Bill sails through the second reading in the National Assembly.
A National Executive Annual Retreat enters its third and final day with calls for more collaboration between the national and county governments.
Right, and that is what to expect. Let's take a look at our news diary for you this morning as we flip our pages. First off, on our news diary, do expect the National Executive Retreat, which is today marks the last day of the second annual National Executive Retreat, which has been happening in Naivasha, Nakuru County. So CSs, PSs, and senior government officials are expected to conclude reviewing the performance of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Let's flip and continue with this diary. MPs to discuss the NADCO report. So following the adoption of the National Dialogue Committee report in Parliament yesterday, so MPs are expected to continue debating various recommendations made with far-reaching implications on how the country is governed. Right. Moving on into something else here. on matters the LSK presidential debate and ahead of the Law Society of Kenya elections slated for 29th of February 2024, which is next week. LSK will today hold a debate for candidates seeking to fill both a presidential post as well as male representative to the Judicial Service Commission, that is JSC. And finally, on our diary, today is the National Prevention Week continues, and the National Campaign Against Drug Abuse, that is NACADA, shall continue the campaign for the National Drug Use Prevention Week, which will run till the 23rd on Friday. So the week is aimed at promoting a drug-free nation as well as celebrating the abstinence and those in recovery. So more context on this, at around 8 a.m. we'll be having two guests from NACADA to help us understand why we're having the National Prevention Week and how the numbers are looking like when it comes to this particular conversation. They have it on the screen. Susan Maua, Manager of Public Education and Advocacy, NACADA, as well as Diana Oma, Senior Public Education and Advocacy Officer from NACADA, having that conversation. Let's cross over to Today in History before we get into kwenye magazetini. On Today in History, there you have it. I was waiting for my Majiki to do the thing. Right, so back in 2011, Today in History, at least 31 people were killed in a suicide attack on an administrative building in Afghanistan's northern Kunduz province on a day like today, back in 2011. That is our cue to get into the papers this morning.
Right, let's do it different today and start off with the People Daily. We always start off with the papers. Let's start off with the People Daily, and the big headline on the front page of the People Daily: TSC paid 466 million shillings to dead teachers. Where did the money go? There's a probe underway. Employer in bizarre revelations tells House team that the agency has written letters to widows seeking refund for salaries given to deceased husbands, retired tutors, and those who had exited the profession. That story is on page 4. Imagine someone has been receiving the money even after this person died, and now they'll have to refund.
Wow. But then in fairness, yesterday we were talking about KPLC overpricing.
So they should balance it out.
So
they
yes,
said,
I mean, at the end of the day,
hii pesa tulilipa Kenya Power.
Yes. and also even Kenya Power, in the same spirit, should also do the same, and even other government entities.
It's a very sad state of affairs there. That's a big headline on the front page of the People Daily. The other story given prominence, a photo there of the president walking hand in hand with governors and his deputy alongside other leaders, cabinet secretaries, attending the National Executive annual retreat in Naivasha. And yes, the governors were there yesterday, and from that they say governors reject Ruto 390 billion shilling revenue offer. Other highlights on the front page of the People Daily: tougher job for new NSC top man. There's a new boss for the Nairobi Securities Exchange. That's Frank Mwiti, who took over yesterday. Finally, the other story on the front page of the People Daily is on the top strip, and they are quoting CJ Kome saying, "Why I met President." Chief Justice says dialogue between arms of government is healthy, but discussion on court decision in cases is a no-go zone. And that's the People Daily today.
Right. And because continue doing things differently, let's go to the Star now and see what the Star is saying. They're calling, they're asking fictitious top managers on the spot of a large and suspicious financial payouts. Audit report unearthed 15.6 billion Kenyan shillings rot at REREC. So senior officials have been suspended at the Rural Electrification Agency over payments on pages 4 and 5 on that. Fred, it seems as if quite a number of papers have numbers on them, quite a lot of them. When you take a look at the People Daily, 466, and also now the Star, just seeing where billions and millions are circulating in the country. Something else here, why Ruto austerity call fell on deaf ears. And pictures there in Naivasha, the Deputy President, as well as Governor Susan Kihika, and the Governor of Homa Bay there. Other highlights on this page, 10-day ultimatum, doctors threatened to go slow over delay in posting interns. And doctors have given health stakeholders until March the 1st to ensure the placement of all pending medical interns. In Kilifi, the Shakahola Hora, Mackenzie and 94 others in hospital after hunger strike. And finally, at the very top strip, blood money, how Al-Shabaab capitalized on poaching fund terrorism. And that is the Star for you.
All right. Another daily with numbers on the main headline is a Business Daily. And on the Business Daily, they talk about financial crimes watchdog flagging 86 billion shillings in 3 years. Corruption, they say, is the most rewarding for money launderers. This is a Business Daily. 1,938 fraud cases scrutinized by Financial Reporting Center. Let me just give you context. Kenyan investigative agencies flagged and investigated more than 591.36 million US dollars, that's about 86 billion, generated from suspected illicit activities, including corruption, fraud, and cyber crimes in the 3 years to July 2023, raising fears that part of the money may have been laundered into the financial system. I think the assumption is correct, yes. That money is now in the financial system. Elsewhere, the other story given prominence on the front page of the Business Daily, interest rates on bank loans race past 26% in fresh review. So anyone who has a loan with any commercial bank locally, you better pay close attention to this. Commercial banks are now charging more than 26% interest on loans in another round of credit repricing that signals more pain for risky borrowers amid a surge in defaults. More highlights on the front page of the Business Daily. Fresh pain at the pump as state triples EPRA levy. You know, guys were expecting that fuel prices will go down, but they're saying now the government has raided the pockets of fuel consumers once again after it tripled the tax payable to EPRA for every litre of the commodity purchased. So despite the dollar, and I remember you having that discussion yesterday, and everyone is hoping that because of the dollar rally against the shilling rallying against the dollar, that probably fuel prices will
instant.
But now there's a levy, which has been tripled by the government, which will just balance it out. Elsewhere, State House heat as 47 billion shillings spending requests rejected. The Controller of Budget rejected the bulk of spending requests by State House, 18 ministries and agencies made under the emergency clause in the 6 months ended December. And finally, Kenya Eurobond yields fall. Yields on Kenya Eurobond have fallen into the single digits territory as investor jitters wear off following the partial payments of the 285.6 billion, that's a 2 billion USD debut Eurobond. And that's the Business Daily today.
Right, Business Daily's sister paper, The Daily Nation. More numbers on this paper, matters the budget, as well as devolved counties' budget as well. So the screaming headline, State House extra budget blocked. And they say the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, rejected requests by the national government to spend 47 billion Kenyan shillings under an emergency provision that allows withdrawals without parliamentary approval. So among the blocked expenditures were 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings by State House for the purchase of vehicles and building of a modern presidential dais on page 7. Just to have also context on this, on page 7, they say among declined requests was one of the State House in July to spend 400 million to buy the vehicles, and another in October spent 700 million to build a modern presidential dais. And other sort of glance, between July and December 2023, however, Control of Budget approved a 3.29 billion Kenyan shillings expenditure under the emergency requests. You can read that and dig into the numbers there. Still on more numbers on this paper, matters devolution. So governors insist counties must get 450 billion cash shillings. That's the lower strip of this paper. Just below that photo of the President William Ruto flanked by other senior government officials. Now, they say a meeting with governors at the ongoing National Executive Retreat in Naivasha failed to unblock the deadlock over the devolved unit's share of national revenue, even as President Ruto pledged his administration is committed to strengthening devolution. Treasury has offered 391 billion cash shillings, but county chiefs want more. On the right, still matters money that now affects your wallet quite hard, and they're calling it more pain. And it's more pain at the pump as fuel prices to rise as state triples EPRA levy. So consumers will pay more for fuel after the government tripled the tax payable to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, for every litre of the commodity purchased. To understand that story in more context to that is on page 12. Some tragedy now, and Kenyan student dies on arrival in Dublin. So family in Baringo wants an investigation into the cause of death of the 23-year-old daughter 3 days after returning to Dublin, Ireland, where she had been studying for 8 months. And that is the front page of this paper. On the back page, about 4 highlights on this paper. The big one, DCI 6 officers to fill its rank and recruitment drive. So officers with a degree or diploma in IT or related field and a driver's license will be given preference. Interesting. So 40 years, that's the maximum age of police officers in applying for vacancies in the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. On the left, matters education, why a union opts for TSC rather than Treasury to handle tutors' pensions. The very bottom there, they say lawmakers summon Kerebos after skipping invitations 14 times. And finally, at the very top scroll of the back page, the game of kings and queens. All you need to know about the magical Kenya Open as the Pro-Am gets the World Tour event going on at Muthaiga Golf Club today on pages 35 and 36. That is the Daily Nation for you.
All right, let's take a look at the Standard. Dead teachers paid millions. That's a big headline on the front page of the Standard. MPs demand an in-depth audit of the Teachers Service Commission payroll following revelations that dead tutors were in list that saw the state agency overpay salaries by 446 million shillings for the year 2021-2022. That story is on page 4. And they say that the amount in shillings that TSC overpaid teacher salaries in the 2020-2021 financial year was about 353 million shillings. You see now, that means every single year they lose over 350 million shillings through overpayment of salaries. That's the Teacher Service Commission. Yes, once again, a photo of what's happening in Naivasha with the National Executive Retreat where the governors were present. So the president there working with some of the governors and meeting cabinet secretaries and county chiefs as well. Another story given prominence on the front page of the Standard, strange kidnap, shock murder of businessman. On Valentine's Day, Jayesh Kanji was walking in Nairobi West with his family. Moments later, he was picked up by someone in a Toyota Prado. Later, and miles away, a blood trail led security guards to a thicket where they found a checked shirt, a shoe, underwear, metal rod, and pieces of bones. What really happened? That story is on page 5 of the Standard. Another highlight on the front page, Keheka risks jail over War Memorial tussle. Court prioritizes hearing of an application by the hospital's administration seeking to cite Governor Keheka and the Nakuru County Police Chief Ndanyi for contempt. More highlights on the top strip of the Standard. Scars of city gas explosion. Almost a month later, heaps of burnt-out wreckage still lie bare at Mradi Estate, the scene of a tragic gas explosion scene. Victims are still scarred, a testimony to the devastating impact of the night fireball. For them, life will never be the same again. Now, the Standard goes behind the scenes to investigate. Another very interesting story here. They say Ruto and Tinubu are the flying presidents. And in sports, tough test as Arsenal face Porto. And when you turn the page to the back page, matters UEFA Champions League.
Yeah.
Arsenal face tough Champions League trip to Porto. That's at 11 p.m. tonight. The other game taking place tonight, Napoli versus Barcelona at 11 p.m. as well, for lovers of Champions League. Something to look forward to.
And because during AFCON you're a prophet, do you prophetize?
This one, I can tell you, yes. I think this one, Arsenal will emerge victorious. That one I can tell you.
We'll be back here tomorrow. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, magavana wakaidi serikali wasisitiza lazima wapewe shilingi bilioni 450 kama mgao wa kaunti badala ya chini ya shilingi bilioni 400 walizotengewa. Na picha za magavana kutoka baadhi ya kaunti tofauti. Vitokezo vingine, koti yazima hasimu wa Khalwale Toto Shimanyula amriwa Kome kumchafulia seneta jina kuhusu kifo. Kwingineko, maelfu ya raia kukosa pensheni. Mashirika mbalimbali ya serikali yaliyofilisika au kuanguka hayajawa yakiwasilisha pensheni. Pale chini, Arsenal, Barcelona ugani UEFA. Gunners wana kibarua kigumu ugenini Porto, huku Napoli ikiwaalika Catalonia leo. Kidokezo kingine pale juu, cha mwisho, Azimio yalemewa bungeni. Kenya Kwanza yawazidia nguvu katika kura ya kuunga mkono ushuru wa nyumba. Katika ukurasa wa pili, na leo hii tutakuwa na baadhi ya bunge kutoka mirengo tofauti pale kutueleza jinsi kura hii ilivyoandaliwa pale jana kwenye bunge.
Oh yes, do stand by for that conversation coming later on after this newspaper review.
Oh yes.
I guess that's our cue now to cross the borders and take a look at the headlines in our neighboring countries. And we start off with Uganda. And yes, the Daily Monitor there. The big headline in Kampala, Uganda this morning, as far as the Daily Monitor is concerned, Mao to Museveni, hand over power peacefully. The Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister, also Democratic Party President General, Mr. Norbert Mao, says presiding over a peaceful transfer of power is the biggest honor President Museveni and his NRM government can accord Ugandans. It's an interesting headline from Kampala this morning. Another a photo there. Government tables 39 bills in Parliament. That's still in Uganda. Other highlights on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Government drafts policy on Mukene. And Uganda plans for pipeline from Tanzania. You see, after that disagreement with Kenya, I think the other option is Tanzania. Whether or not that will be successful, we have to wait and see. On the top strip of the Daily Monitor, a special report, the brains behind new army structure. Yesterday on the front page of the Daily Monitor, there was a full breakdown of the new UPDF military structure. And now today, talk about the brains behind the new army structure. That's the Daily Monitor. The other daily from Uganda, that's the New Vision. Talks about agency merger, affected staff to get no compensation. That's the New Vision. 13 bills tabled for rationalization of state enterprises. That's the front page of the New Vision. The other story there, a photo of the First Lady inspecting AFCON facilities. Remember, in 2027, this is what they call the Pamoja bid. Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda will be jointly hosting the Africa Cup of Nations tournament. And the First Lady of Uganda there inspecting some of the AFCON facilities. And you can already see even online people talking about how the stadiums are being refurbished ahead of 2027.
I hope Kenya is on the same spirit.
Yes, right. And yes, that's the New Vision. Those are the headlines in Uganda this morning.
Oh, there's actually a Mombasa tea market in Uganda. I didn't know that.
Mombasa tea market?
Yes, on the front page
of the New Vision.
New Vision.
Oh,
yes.
How Uganda loses billions at Mombasa tea market. I think, yes, the auction happens in Mombasa here in Kenya. So even Uganda brings in their tea for auction at Mombasa. Yes.
Okay. I thought there's a Mombasa tea market in Uganda.
No, it's the other way around.
From Kampala to Kigali, that is in Rwanda, the New Times. DRC's Rwandophone questioned what U.S. African leaders said, and various African leaders have spoken out on the issue of the Congolese Tutsi communities. That is on page 3. The highlights there, Burera registers decline in smuggling drugs, is according to officials. But something that Rwandans can't keep quiet about, it is the Amahoro Stadium. And I remember some time back we were taking a look at the revamping of the stadium. Right now, even our ex-co-host was shouting about it on X there. The videos of this, Amahoro Stadium and how beautiful it looks like, from different, angles out there. So the Amahoro Stadium, which has been undergoing a significant facelift since the 31st of August, 2022, is set to transform into an ultra-modern sports ground by the end of 2024. So the renovations include expanding seating capacity, enhancing outer facilities such as the Petit Stade for basketball. So Petit Stade basically means a small stadium. Petit is small.
Okay.
Yes. Vous comprenez?
Yeah.
Today's math language.
Je comprenais.
Good stuff. You're a quick learner. As a mother language, I can take French as yet. So the Petit Stade for basketball and indoor games, the Paralympics gymnasium, parking and access roads, as well as the perimeter fence. But then now the big question is, so as much as it's a revamped, but how will traffic be managed on the match days?
It's always a problem, a challenge, even everywhere else in the world, the access to such stadiums, especially if they get to host an international tournament where foreigners come in, is always a problem. But as again we see, this discussion of stadia around Africa, it's like there's a reawakening. Everyone is trying to refurbish their stadiums. And remember that promise by the Jubilee administration that would have 5 state-of-the-art international standard stadium in about 6 months' time. Well, those 6 months expired sometime in 2014.
We're still waiting.
This is 10 years later.
Oh, yes.
And we're looking forward to host the AFCON 2027. And we're still refurbishing Nyayo Stadium for a crusade coming up.
Oh, yes, this weekend, by the way. Yes. Oh, yes. Hopefully one of these days we'll see, hopefully one of these days we'll see our local dailies having plastered a nice photo. And not an AI-generated image, a nice renovated image of our stadiums.
Let's just hope that by 2027 we'll have enough facilities to host the continent here for that African showpiece.
That is in Kigali. Let's take that bus down there to ingia Tanzania. Tuone maneno yako yapi. I'll start with the Citizen, and they said real estate up for major boost with the proposed law. So the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Human Settlements Development is in the early stages of enacting a law to govern real estate business in the country as it looks to regulate, coordinate and promote the booming industry. That is on page 22. So in 2022, the real estate unit was established within the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Human Settlements Development. Meanwhile, on the brink of losing indigenous languages for good, this is the only paper, by the way, that has actually mentioned the International Mother Language Day. So they say the alarming rate at which indigenous languages are disappearing in Africa has awakened top leaders, including Vice President Philip Mpango, who has called for robust policy interventions.
Okay, and I saw even the fourth president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, attended that event in Tanzania yesterday. So yes, indeed, it is a big discussion today being the International Mother Language Day.
Meanwhile, World Bank 1 trillion Tanzanian shillings financing to change face of Dar roads. At the very bottom there, in blue, Tanzania to deploy drones in forest protection. Those are just quite a number of what is happening in Tanzania. Kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi?
Kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi habari kuu pale wanazungumzia makali ya maisha. Hivi ndivyo wananchi wanavyopambana na makali ya maisha kupitia mgao wa umeme, maji na kupaa kwa bei za bidhaa muhimu ikiwemo sukari. So yale masuala wa Kenya wanapitia hapa ni sawia na wenzetu majirani kule Tanzania, na niliona kwamba jana tulikuwa tunazozana nao kwenye mitandao tukisema jirani hana stima. Sasa jirani anazungumza Kiswahili gizani jirani haelewi Kiingereza, hata dola hana.
Statue yake aliyekuwa rais wake wameweka sijui aje.
Hata naanda Mwalimu pia aliundwa mambo tofauti kule Addis Ababa. Anyway, makali ya maisha kule Tanzania ndio habari kuu kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi. Habari zingine zilizopewa kipaumbele kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Mwananchi: nimekuta binti yangu kaolewa, kitanda, godoro vyote vimeibwa. Ukurasa wa mbele ni simulizi pale. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye jarida la Mwananchi: Sugu amshukia mkuu wa wilaya kwa kuhujumu maandamano. Kwingineko, manufaa matumizi ya gesi asilia kwa magari. Vidokezo zaidi: shilingi trilioni 1 pesa za Tanzania za DMDP kuboresha barabara, kujenga dampo Dar. Na kwingineko, mtifuano kuwania ubosi ACT, vijana ngoma nzito. Hizi ndizo habari zilizopewa kipaumbele kule Bongo kulingana na jarida la Mwananchi.
All right. From pale Bongo turejea hapa nchini Kenya and take a look at our caricature for today. It is a luta continua, as Tano says. The woman there cooking some illicit brew as she exchanges hands with an armed officer. Just behind her is a barrel there, some vinywaji placed there. And she says, a luta continua. Her eyes actually looking quite red. I don't know if it's the effect of the smoke, the blowing smoke, or what, the contents in it.
Interesting.
Yes.
And I was just looking at the cartoon on the page 12 of the Standard, and my eyes' attention were caught by this editorial comment on the Standard. It's linked to that. And according to the Standard, they say, allow traditional liquor to curb toxic brew deaths. So according to the Standard, they suggest that probably allowing traditional liquor like Muratina, Busa, and to some extent Changa could actually help in curbing that. Whether or not that's true, anyway, that's the editorial comment on the Standard today. But the cartoon on the Standard is talking about the big shoes left by one Raila Odinga, if at all is successful in his bid for the AUC chair's job. And one person there who's a deputy party leader of ODM and is trying to fit in the shoes for both Azimio and One Kenya. And he says, vacuum, what vacuum? Yeah. Matters to do with succession within Azimio and the One Kenya alliance.
On page 17 of the Daily Nation, since what were happening yesterday at the Parliament, there's a huge hand and holding a very small house and trying to crumble down the Parliament. And just outside it, speakers of the National Assembly as well as the Senate outside there wondering, what do we do? They say the 3% housing levy.
Yes, the National Assembly yesterday debated and passed the affordable housing bill in its second reading, though. It's still a process, but it looks like it's as good as done. The MPs voted, I think, 158 to about 52. So yes, it's smooth sailing for Kenya Kwanza in as far as passing the affordable housing bill. Yes, those are the dailies this morning. After the break, we'll be discussing some of these headlines with our panelists. Today, we'll be having Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mberenoff, Didmas Barasa, MP Kimilili, both of Kenya Kwanza, and Dr. Martin Olo, lawyer and political analyst in studio. Do stand by for this conversation. And of course, you can be part of it on through our social media, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. Once again, a reminder of the other conversation coming up later.
Oh yes, Matters National Drug Use Prevention Week. And just having strategies for preventing alcohol and drug abuse. Fred, the numbers are very worrying when you take a look at the initiation age, as young as 6 for different drugs, alcohol, tobacco, you name them. So just understanding how you can even prevent even have a safe space for children who haven't even attained 18, and even the family members and people around them are using drugs. So how can we really have that? And also for those who are abstaining, how can we also make sure that the environment around them is also safe, and even for those who are in recovery as well. We'll be having that conversation. Susan Maua, Manager Public Education and Advocacy from NACADA, as well as Diana Ouma, Senior Public Education and Advocacy Officer, NACADA. But also remember the question of the day matters how hot it is from where you are.
What are you doing to cope with unusually high temperatures? What are you doing to cope with unusually high temperatures? Give us your comment on our social media pages. We've mentioned them earlier, and you can continue interacting with us. Of course, you're watching Morning Cafe. 7 with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for the State of the Nation, where we take a look at the headlines and other stories that are making big talking points. This morning, matters to do with money, making headlines across all major dailies. Financial Crimes Watchdog flags 86 billion shillings in 3 years. Issues to do with money laundering and proceeds of corruption, fraud and cybercrime. That's the front page of the Business Daily. On the Daily Nation, State House extra budget blocked, and they talk about 47 billion shillings, which was to be withdrawn under an emergency provision that allows withdrawals without parliamentary approval. Dead teachers paid millions, 446 million shillings in the year 2021-2022, and another 353 million shillings. These are extra payments to people who do not even exist anymore. 353 million shillings a year earlier. I am in studio with Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North. It's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
We still expect some other panelists to be joining us later on. But Bwana Ruku, looking at your CV, you are an expert on matters finance and commerce. You have an MBA in finance.
Yes.
And when it comes to management of public finances,
yes,
there's some questions that need to be asked about all this.
Yes.
If we could be losing an average of 400 million shillings through extra payments
yes,
to teachers who are already dead,
yes,
issues to do with money laundering and corruption, 86 billion shillings finding its way into the economy through channels that cannot really be accounted for. The kind of spending we're seeing even with the executive, we definitely are not behaving like a country that should be undergoing austerity measures, are we?
thank you. I think public finance is quite important because it involves allocation of scarce resources. There is no time. Resources have been unlimited. Resources, and especially public resources in terms of finance or money, is always limited. And therefore, it should be, where it is allocated, it should be managed in the most prudent way possible. When we see the teachers are getting, the Teacher Service Commission has paid over 446 million Kenyan shilling in 1 year to teachers who are not there, to ghost teachers. This is an extremely serious, I mean, very serious violation of what I may call prudent management of public resources. And therefore, serious action should be taken by whoever is responsible. And I can see the members of parliament in charge of the committee which probably deals with the Teacher Service Commission or public PIC committee in Parliament. They should dig deep to understand why such huge amount of money, which is extremely scarce, and we know that these scarce resources should be prudently used by I mean, for the benefit of the people.
But someone may say that even the national executive is not communicating that urgency or that scarcity that may necessitate prudent management of these resources. In the same vein, the headline on the front page of the Daily Nation talks about expenditure for things like renovation of State House, buying new cars for State House. If at all this is what people see, and perceptions do matter,
yes,
then everyone else in government may feel, after all, there's no need for austerity. If at all the national executive is doing this, why not us?
I think you have a strong point. Yes, I can see 1.1 billion to renovate State House and to buy new vehicles for State House. Yes, State House is a national, what I may call national treasure. It's a public good. It is where the seat of power of this nation, where it represents the symbol of national unity, the State House. I think it is wrong since this building was renovated. I didn't hear Mwai Kibaki renovating this building. I didn't hear Uhuru Kenyatta renovating this building. I know now for sure there is something which is going on as far as the renovation of the building is concerned. But even if it's been renovated, let it be renovated with the budget, the appropriate budget, which is not over-exaggerated. But unfortunately, some of these budget lines are what you may call national security budget lines. And some of them are not...
where withdrawals can be made without the approval of Parliament.
Not really.
Because that's a question here, because if you look at the front page, the Controller of Budget rejected these requests by the national government to spend 47 billion under an emergency provision that allows withdrawals without parliamentary approval. Now, among the blocked expenditures were 1.1 billion shillings for State House, for the purchase of vehicles and building of a modern presidential dais. And having such a story on the front page of the biggest daily in Kenya definitely sends a message. This is a communication that Kenyans are getting. And at a time when everyone is being told you'll need to dig deeper into your pockets and try and budget better, this kind of communication says something totally different. That's a concern by Kenyans.
Yes, for sure. It's a concern for all Kenyans, and for sure all the spending, whether State House or other ministries or different government functions, should be prudently, analyzed and to see whether it is important for that expenditure to be incurred. The renovation of State House, I say yes, that house needs to be renovated for sure. But even if it's going to be renovated, let it be renovated with appropriate budget. Let's see whether is 1.1 billion, is that what it's taking to get it renovated, and why, And
does it have to happen right now? Because the timing is also questionable, because it is this time around that the government says we are in dire straits.
Yes.
The debt burden is too high.
Yes.
And we need to manage our expenses.
Yes.
And then at the same time, that's when we choose to renovate State House at 1 billion shillings?
That's a fine question. Probably the occupant of the State House, who is the president, sees the need to renovate. Probably is not comfortable. If it's not comfortable, it is his prerogative, it is his decision to make and see whether indeed the State House needs to be renovated.
And perhaps...
And also, he's the one who is managing the economy. He's the one who is managing all these ministries. He knows how he has allocated all these...
He will handle the problem
Yes,
himself.
he knows the budget which the Parliament has allocated to different ministries or different departments. So he can be able to see the bigger picture from where he sits.
Okay.
And for sure, I don't think he's making, or he can make a decision which is not well thought.
Okay.
Yes.
And now, if you look at the Business Daily, it talks about some 86 billion shillings financial crimes, amounts that have been flagged by the Financial Crimes Watchdog. This is amounts including proceeds of corruption, illicit activities, fraud and cyber crimes over a 3-year period. And 86 billion shillings finding itself into the economy through such dubious means could have an effect on this economy as well.
That's true.
Now, for an economy that is already suffering from a huge debt burden and other issues, shrinking revenue collection and stuff like that, one would imagine that probably the government would focus more on tightening or sealing such loopholes, ensuring that government expenditure is more prudent, and just to try and consolidate these funds. But why hasn't this government used that approach? Is it an approach that is too expensive?
We have a problem as far as cyber crime is concerned, because so far we don't have regulations on cyber crime. We have an act of parliament which talks about cyber security and cyber crime, but so far that act of parliament has not been put into more effect by a regulation. It is the time the regulation is coming to the Committee of Delegated Registration so that we can look at it and see whether we agree with the implementation of that regulation. Now, without proper regulation, many things can happen. And there can be quite a number of loopholes, and I think those are the loopholes which...
Should the focus then therefore be to that the executive and the National Assembly would work together to seal these loopholes? That would really benefit the country to a great extent. If at all these monies were to be consolidated and spent in a prudent manner, we would not be probably would be in a better financial state as a country.
That's true.
Without necessarily having to borrow more.
That's true, and for sure, not even mentioning about the cyber space. When you're talking about the virtual assets where even the cryptocurrency is traded, Kenya is one of the leading nations as far as the trading of the cryptocurrency or virtual assets is concerned.
Largely
and there is no regulation in the Republic of Kenya on how that space should be regulated or taxed. The last 1 year, Kenya traded virtual assets worth $20 billion. Not even one Kenya shilling, $1, which came into Kenya coffers as revenue for government. So I think we have a lot of work to do as Parliament, as an executive, so that we can be able to capture all this. If you levy, even if it's 0.5% or even 1% of $20 billion a year, how much is that? It's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of revenue for the nation. So there is a lot which needs to be done as far as tightening the cyber security, the virtual assets, the issues to do with cryptocurrency, to see how all this money can be brought to the economy in the most well-regulated manner and can be of use to our economy. At the same time, to ensure process of crime, because that's another serious thing which can distort many markets or sectors of the economy. For instance, if huge process of crime find its way in the economy, it can distort especially the real estate sector, where we have people with huge amount of money, they are buying flat and apartment without minding whether it is the market price or not.
It is happening in Kileleshwa and Lavington as we speak. Yeah.
So it distorts the market prices of different economic sectors, and that become one of the serious things which can create havoc in the market, disfragilize other people, because there are those who are in the same business, they want to do some genuine business. There are pharaohs who are coming with the process of crime, and they don't care the prices, they don't care about the market. So it can make other people get out of the market, make losses. And now process of crime, you don't know where it's coming from. Probably it's terrorism, probably it is human trafficking, probably it is organ trafficking. It must be tightened. In the last session of Parliament, we passed anti-money laundering amendments.
Yes.
And it was a huge omnibus bill, amending several other acts of Parliament at the same time, so as to tighten the issues of money laundering, because it's a serious crime and it must be flagged out in a more serious manner. But also this cannot be able to be successful if our banks also are not helping us. But now, unfortunately, also you'll find that the banks also, they need this money. They are also in money-making business. So it's upon the Central Bank of Kenya to ensure the banks are operating within the rules of the sector.
Interesting. This is just a quick look at the front pages of the main dailies today: the Financial, Business Daily, the Daily Nation, and even the Standard Matters Money and Prudent Management of national financial resources. We take a break now. When we come back, we discuss what's happening in Parliament. It's been a very busy week for members of the National Assembly, especially those from Kenya Kwanza. They started off the week with a parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha, and yesterday they were in Bunge and ensured that the affordable housing bill passed its second reading. sailing through successfully without much opposition. We'll be looking at that and a lot more after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe. Our way. And of course, yesterday in the National Assembly, members of Parliament managed to pass the Affordable Housing Bill through its second reading. And I want you to take us through that, what it means and what other processes remain. Because we understand the Kenya Kwanza team was quite strong, 141 to 58. Meaning it was a whitewash. It looks like it's going to be smooth sailing for Kenya Kwanza, especially with this affordable housing bill. Bonaruku.
Yes, yes. We are looking at, yesterday it was second reading of the bill. We are going for the third reading of the bill where all the amendments which members want to amend different articles of the bill will be implemented, and where each and every article of that bill must be voted for. Mm-hmm. So that is what is remaining, and then finally to taken to the Senate, because it's a county bill. Mm-hmm. It has matters affecting the county government, so it will be taken to the Senate, and the Senate also will go through the same bill, and finally taken to the President. What the bill is all about is more of creation of jobs than even what many people are talking about, the levy, the housing levy. It's more of creation of jobs. It's more of revitalizing our economy because we have many youth out there who are unemployed.
And I've seen your colleague, the MP for Arieda, Otiende Amolo, questioning that thinking, that this is a affordable housing project, but now you're talking more about employment than housing, that the main thing is employment, not even the housing itself. Yes. How come that is the way you approach it?
Yeah, because when if you look at the value chain which this bill is going to create in the construction industry, for those who are in quarry business, they will see they will be in business big time. For those who are in manufacturing of tiles in the country, they will be in business in a big way. For those who are in timber setting, they will be in business in a serious manner. In fact, at the moment, because of the ongoing project, already we have shortage of timber. Getting timber in the Kenyan market is a problem at the moment. People are going all the way to Congo, to Sierra Leone to bring timber here because there is huge demand of timber. For those who are in cement industry, it will be a big business. You know, now, when we have demand of cement and the factories, what it means is those factories will be required to employ more people. Those who are in timber business, those who are dealing with timber, they're required to employ more people so that they can be able to meet the supply. Even before you get to the actual project, where also labor is needed, where the architects are needed, where the engineers are needed, where technicians, you know, machinery and carpenters and electricians and tile fitters are all needed in this project. So it's an entire value chain process which will create jobs in quite a number of sectors. And this will have a very serious ripple effect.
The main motivation is creating employment, not necessarily implementing an affordable housing plan.
This country requires a Marshall Plan. A Marshall Plan like that one, like the one which was implemented by Europe or Germany after the Second World War. When the economy is completely in tatters, you require a serious injection of resources to stimulate the growth of the economy. There are many examples we can have how the economies are stimulated. Economies are even stimulated through war. We have seen huge economies in the world going to war, basically for stimulating the economy. They will have all manner of reasons why they are going to war, but the real reason is to ensure the economy is properly stimulated because war is one of the greatest business. Okay. But now, in this case, we are saying, you know, instead of doing kazi mutahani, like what the former regime used to do, we release money to employ young people, those who are out of school, to go thrashing grasses along the road or cleaning, I don't know where, and then you are paying some money as a way of releasing some money within the economy. It's better to have a Marshall Plan which is affecting, which is cutting across different sectors of the economy.
Okay.
So, and this is exactly what this housing...
Okay. Now, coming back to the bill itself, of course, this whole plan, the affordable housing project has come, there have been some hurdles along the way, some of the issues that have been challenged, especially at the courts. And one may wonder, with looking at the numbers and how you're handling the numbers between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, because this issue has previously gone through Parliament,
yes.
Yet it still met some hurdles at the judiciary, meaning that probably because of the numbers, there was not enough scrutiny of some of the issues that could cause problems thereafter. Aren't you facing the same challenge now? Because Kenya Kwanza definitely has the numbers, and they may decide whether or not someone raises an issue that would add value to the bill. They may veto down that with their numbers. Don't you think that you run the same risk and end up in court again simply because you have the majority?
No, we are keen to all the section of the bill to ensure it is in line with the Constitution, so that there's no section which may render the bill, or once it's signed into an act, may be unconstitutional. We know there is an argument that in the beginning, the object of the bill, it said that the bill is not a county, it's not a county bill. But of course, that has been resolved by the two speakers of the House in concurrence, that indeed this is a county bill, and therefore that's why it will go to the Senate. So initially it was indicated. So there's an argument from the minority side, that now, because this is what the initial object of the bill was saying, then we need to withdraw the bill and reintroduce the bill again with a different object. You know, object is a description of what the bill is all about, and this is a description given by the sponsor of the bill. And for this case, because it's a government bill, the sponsor of this bill is the leader of majority. So, but you see, the legislative process involves amending different clauses, different sentences, so within the content of
your approach is simply amending the original bill
yes.
and proceeding.
Yes. So okay. because we have not finished the legislative process, that object has been amended. It can still be amended in the committee of the whole House, okay? So that it will be in tandem with the Constitution. Okay. So I hope by the time we're finishing with this process, all the articles, all the sections of the bill will be completely in tandem.
Are you confident that it will be given that kind of attention? Because previously we've seen your colleagues say that bill will pass it without removing a comma or a full stop. There has been extensive public participation. There's a lot of hue and cry, especially by members of the public. At the courts, the issue of discrimination came up. And yet all these are things that passed through your hands and were not picked out or were not remedied early enough. Are you confident that this time around, all these issues will be resolved?
All those issues will be resolved, and it is good that the court raised some of these things. So that we can even widen the scope of getting levy to this housing program. Not only those who are in full-time employment or formal employment, even those who are in formal employment or informal sector, they will be part and parcel of this program, meaning the government will be able to raise more resources, more money to this program than before. Okay. So I think it's a good thing, and it's the right thing to do for this economy. For the economies which have had a turnaround, especially the Asian economies, they went through the process of a housing program, exactly what we are planning. So I think it's the right thing to do. It may be difficult because at the moment we may be wanting free things. But we cannot continue in that direction.
And now,
and you know, it is good to mention that the prices of unga, it has gone down. Okay. It has gone down without the point which I want to stress, or I want to make, without the subsidy. Okay. Without the subsidy.
Okay.
So subsidizing commodities or programs is not the right thing to do.
Okay. Still on parliamentary agenda, and one would have thought that after recess and coming back that the priority would have been given to the NADCO report, especially because of the delay in reconstituting the IEBC, but we're seeing that priority is now on the affordable housing bill. Where are you on in as far as processing the NADCO report?
NADCO report was tabled when we went for recess in December. And it was...
Was it tabled really?
Yes.
Because the NADCO report came much later, almost at Christmas. That's
yes.
when the report was ready. My understanding is that it was the motion was tabled yesterday.
It was tabled on the 1st of 12th of December.
The report was not ready by 12th of December. It came much later towards almost Christmas Day. So it can only have been tabled this year, probably.
No, it was tabled last year before we went to recess. And yesterday it was agenda number 2 of discussion in the House after the housing bill. So at the moment we are debating the NADCO report. Today the debate will continue for 3 hours, and then we will take a decision as a House as far as the NADCO report is concerned.
What is the sentiment, especially from the Kenya Kwanza side, about the proposals coming from that NADCO report?
The proposals, we are saying, let's pass the proposals.
As they are.
As they are. Let's pass the, so that we can have legislative proposals which will come out of the NADCO report, and we see whether they can be enacted. My personal view of the report has always been that it was not the right thing to do, because it is as a result of violence, as a result of people saying they won elections. And how can MCA election be okay, MP election be okay, governor election be okay, women election be okay, senators election be okay? The only election which and issues is presidential election.
You know, I'm asking this question because the court had already pronounced itself just before you came back from recess on this issue of reconstituting the IEBC, and or directed the selection panel to proceed with that matter. Yet there's already a political process underway through the NADCO. Even the leader of majority had indicated that it would be given prominence. If at all your personal sentiment is that that should not be the way to go, are you saying that you favor the court's decision, or you support the court's decision to have the selection committee as it is, the selection panel as it is, proceed with reconstituting the IEBC?
That would be my way of looking at things, because we have laws in place which guide us on how IBC should be reconstituted. This would have been done a long time ago, but the principals, or those who are the top of the political hierarchy, the president and his counterpart, agreed, okay, let's give it space, let's people talk about how to reconstitute IBC. But you know, yesterday I was listening to contribution of NADCO report, especially from members of the minority opposition. And we were talking about agreeing on the commissioners. Who are these commissioners we are going to bring? And some of them are saying that, you know, we cannot trust anybody in the Republic of Kenya, within the boundaries of the Republic of Kenya, to be commissioners. Therefore, we need foreigners to come and be IBC commissioners so that they can be able to oversee a credible elections. But you see, I think that is an extremely wrong way of looking at things, because the software of how we organize our election is what we need to look at. And the software is, do we have laws which can say we are automating the processes of our voting processes? Whether it is from the procurement process of the gadgets which are involved in election, in voting, whether it is the ballot, whether it is the transmission of those results, whether it is counting of those results, can we be able to have a law which changes the way things have been done in the past?
Okay.
And this law should endeavor to automate the entire process. We have a democracy called India. India, there are more than 500 million voters. And we have never had a crisis in India that there some votes have not been counted.
Okay.
We have only less than, how many? Less than 15 million voters. And telling those 15 million ballot papers is a big problem.
I'm more concerned, I'm more concerned about what you've said, that you do not agree with the NADCO report. You do not agree with that process in its entirety. But you also indicate that you will vote for it. Is that what you're saying? Once it comes to the National Assembly, it's already been tabled, that you will vote for it?
What I'm saying, the foundation of the NADCO, of people going to Bomas to discuss, the basis, why they went there, according to me, is completely wrong.
But you will still vote for it?
So I'm here as a member of parliament, put in an awkward position where I'm supposed to take a decision of something which I don't believe in. So,
because my question is, you've just come from a parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha, and the president, we saw bits and pieces of the activities that went on there.
Yes.
Did the NADCO report arise? Was there any discussion on how to proceed with that matter?
Yes, NADCO report was discussed in Naivasha, and there is a general agreement that let's go and finish the report in Parliament as quickly as possible. Let it be passed. Yes, we discussed about it, but what I'm trying to say is that yes, you know, we have to make it right. As a nation. So we have to get it right.
You will vote for it, but reluctantly. It is not what you believe in, but this is what you will give your vote to. That is a question I'm asking.
Yes, politically, and I know why.
Why is this?
We have to, I don't know whether it's the right thing to, but for those in...
Bonaruku, it would appear that you're in a very uncomfortable position in your role as a legislator.
Yes.
That you appear reluctant or unable to exercise your own independence in making decisions. You were elected by people from the north.
Yes.
And they expect you to be independent totally. I'm asking this question because what we had in Naivasha,
yes,
and I've seen some analysis on it, was that on so many issues, members of parliament from the Kenya Kwanza side are not really consulted beforehand. They're simply given directives on what to do. That the president appears, in some instances, to talk down to members of parliament and tells them, this is what you do. Hamujasoma gazeti, mimi nilisema namna hii. And hence, most of you are find yourselves in this awkward position. You're forced to vote this way, yet you totally believe something different.
No, there's no time President has ever talked down with the members of parliament, especially those of Kenya Kwanza Coalition. Instead, we have seen a president who is extremely pragmatic in calling members of parliament, listening to what the members of parliament are saying, discussing, answering very difficult questions from the members of parliament. For instance, what happened in Naivasha, there were so many questions which he answered himself. And those which he could not answer, his ministers were there to answer, his team was there to answer, from the members of parliament.
Explain to us what we saw in Naivasha, because there was an instance where the president was trying to explain, I think it was about the jobs abroad.
Yes.
And there was, of course, the camera didn't show us, the members of parliament, but there was a lot of noise and people raising concerns, and there were challenges, and the president said, Kwani amsomi gazeti?
No, what is happening is that we have the minister in charge of labor, who is not involving the members of parliament in whatever she's trying to do. And that's what we are telling the president. No, we are not aware about some of these things you are saying. Yes, we have earned, there is 2,500 nurses which have been recruited for Saudi Arabia. How they are being recruited for Saudi Arabia as members of parliament, we are not well informed. And from where the president thought that the members of parliament are well informed. But the minister and the peers in charge on making sure that all the information is properly disseminated.
Don't you see a challenge in that the president believes that Kenya Kwanza MPs are with him in all his decisions, yet some of you have questions, and do you always get those questions answered?
Yes, all those questions I normally get answered. For instance, I asked a question which was well answered and very certified. But now, for the nurses, 2,500 nurses, which the Minister of Labour announced for application, only 500 nurses have applied. Okay? Now, we keep on saying we have no jobs in the Republic of Kenya. We have so many nurses which are trained and they don't have jobs.
Okay.
But there's an opportunity for 2,500 and only 500 have applied.
And members of Kenya Kwanza legislature were not aware.
So we were just saying to get those 2,500 nurses applying is very easy. We just need to tell members of parliament each have five each, or I don't know, or I don't know, you can define it, and to be done within.
Allow me to introduce Dr. Martin Olo to the panel. Dr. Martin Olo is a familiar face on this panel, lawyer and political analyst. Karibu sana, it's good to have you in studio.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you for having me. It's been one of those mornings. I know. That traffic on Kiambu Road.
Traffic, yes, can actually be interesting.
Overlapping, everything stands still. But yeah,
it's good that you're finally here. And you found us discussing the conduct of members of the Kenya Kwanza legislature, MPs from Kenya Kwanza side. They've been very busy this week. There was that parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha. Yesterday, they were back in the House and they managed to sail through the affordable housing bill through the second reading, 141 votes to 58, so it was smooth sailing for them. Now they're considering the NADCO report. They're not really giving it priority in comparison to the affordable housing bill. But Bwana Ruku here, a member of this National Assembly, appears to be in a dilemma. He says that he does not necessarily believe in this NADCO report, but that he may be forced to vote for it politically, and is lost for words. I don't know if you saw that, he's not sure how to explain why that is happening. What is your analysis of this?
You see, with a lot of respect to our members of parliament, they need to exercise some form of independence. And when I say some form of independence, that yes, you are elected on the Kenya Kwanza ticket, but certainly you owe Kenyans and you owe your electorates your seat. And that if they don't agree with you, or if they don't find that you are making sense to them, then you will be at variance. So at the end of the day, a member of parliament will go to an election on their own. Their party, yes, but the people, the voters, will make a decision about them as individuals, not how they voted and what they did. So that is their first challenge. So they must listen to their ground, and they must work in a way that they still gain favor with their people. That said, I don't think that a lot of what Kenya Kwanza's challenges, or a lot of what they are doing, has resonance with people. This affordable housing bill, whether passed or whether sailing to the second, I'm not sure what his constituents like about it. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a question of, did you really resonate with your people? The second issue is this NADCO report. I'm not sure what it is about. I'm not a member of either of them, but I'm also at a loss what it is. And even if you were to vote for it, what are you voting for?
Shouldn't we expect some clarity from members of the National Assembly that if at all the general feeling is that they do not see the need for this NADCO report, that they would be strong enough to say that this thing, I cannot vote for it?
You see, the thing is, and this is the problem with the NADCO report, Parliament somehow, or the Kenya Kwanza side and the Azimio side, made it a parliamentary initiative. And that's why Kimani Ichung'wah was leading it, plus Opiyo Wandayi and others. Now they have to swallow it. There's a pill there that they have gone to the factory, the pharmacy, to create. Now they have to swallow it back in the National Assembly. But what is it they really want to swallow? The things they want to talk about, either you're changing the law or you are changing the constitution, But you can't go and talk about IBC unless you're changing the Elections Act. You can't talk about the Constitution unless you want to change how the Constitution has determined it. So the NADCO report, I empathize. I'm not sure I sympathize. I empathize with them, because then what is it? And when you vote for it, what effect will it have?
And if I may ask you a question, if did you get to see or watch a video clip from the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha, where there was some mamas or members of parliament, although we did not see them, but the president was addressing them, and we could hear many of them raise challenges. And Bonaruku says this is normal, but the general feeling was that this is a president talking down on members of parliament and telling them, this is what I want, simple, go ahead and do it. Kwa nini hamsomi gazeti? Is that what you got?
That's what I got, and if Mr. Ruku here was my member of parliament, if he came down in the village, I'll call him out. I'll tell him, wewe, you went to kusomewa tu huko. You know, don't you have a voice? There is, of course, a style which the president has, which sometimes isn't very democratic or isn't very inclusive, particularly his approach to governance or his approach to loyalty. It's either 100% or none. You cannot be in and question, which is in itself not a very good idea. I mean, surely people should be independent. Yes, you are Kenya Kwanza, but you should have a view, and you not agree all the time. You should be able to also express yourself. But I don't think he entertains dissent. I think he fumes around it. You know how, for example, the MP of Governor Mushomba is which constituency? Kidhunguri, yeah. You know how she's independent or what she talks, and most people in Kenya Kwanza think she's, not good for them, which is not the case. You also need a voice that speaks independently.
Bonaruku, what do you say to that? The fact that Kenyans are questioning whether or not you, as a member of parliament, have the tenacity to actually exercise your independence as an elected member?
First, let me clarify. There's no point where the president was talking down to the members of parliament in Naivasha. It did not happen. What president was asking is, you guys, you are not aware that 2,500 nurses are needed in Saudi and only 500 applied. You guys, you are not aware of a body called National Employment Authority. Personally, I've never heard of National Employment Authority. I heard it for the first time in Naivasha when the president talked about it. And it is located somewhere in Kasarani. And the president was categorical saying such an institution cannot be headquartered somewhere in Kasarani where even the location is not known. Whoever is concerned, the CEO and the people there, they should find an appropriate location, and the minister in charge should find an appropriate location for that institution somewhere. And if you log into the website, they have a portal. You'll see all the jobs available in different countries, not only in Saudi, in Poland, in Dubai, in several other countries. There is a portal where you can go and apply.
Okay.
Now, this is information which we didn't have. And when we are told by the president about this information, that's why members of parliament say,
is that the nature of communication, most of the communication between the president and the Kenya Kwanza, that you expected through probably the media to know some of these things? The president expressed himself and said, yes, kwani hamsomi gazeti. The expectation is that...
And I can hear you speaking English.
No. And that's why we're saying, the guy who is on the line, who is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, is the minister in charge of labor.
Okay.
Because that National Employment Authority is under a certain ministry, and this ministry is the Minister of Labor. But they are not communicating some of this information. They are keeping information to themselves. If a member of parliament is not aware about some of this information, do you expect a common man in my constituency a guy who has just graduated last year in Chicago, in Shiara, in Kanyambara, will be having this information?
Okay.
Of course no. Okay. So the minister in charge of labor need to be disseminating this information, and not only the minister in charge of labor, but all the ministries, because they are performing jobs which are affecting Kenyans who we represent in the House. They should be in a position to tell us, okay, or to find a way. And the reason why we are members of parliament
the reason why we're having all this conversation is because of the parliamentary agenda. Yeah. Now you've managed to pass the affordable housing bill, and it would appear that it is something key to the president. From what I've seen, there is no dissension from any member of Kenya Kwanza so far.
Yes.
That everyone, once the president said this is the way to go, that happens. Is that the way the NADCO report will be approached as well? That now that the president said we need to pass it, that it will be passed the same way?
We need to interrogate the NADCO report properly. We need to look at it keenly. There are sections which are not proper, quite a number of them. The beauty with the report is just a report. It's not legislative proposals. It's not a bill. So it's a report which needs to be discussed. Once we pass the report, from that report, we'll be able to extract
bits and pieces,
bills, or amendment of certain number of laws. If it is Election Act, Election Act will be amended to be in tandem with the proposals of the NADCO report. If it is our constitution, it will be amended so that it can be in tandem with the NADCO report. For instance, we want to entrench, the NADCO report is proposing entrenchment of CDF in the constitution, so that we cannot have CDF to be as an act of parliament. At the moment, CDF as a case in court. The courts are proposing to scrap.
So there are bits and pieces of the NADCO report that you definitely support.
Yes.
So you will be waiting. That's the reason why you will adopt the whole report, yes, then pick bits and pieces.
For instance, I support the issue of CDF. I support the issue of IBC. I don't support the issue of creation of positions of individuals in parliament.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
This is my problem with Mheshimiwa here. He's not giving us a reason as to why he thinks CDF should be entrenched in the Constitution. In other words, he is not even attempting to discuss the philosophy of our Constitution. Because the philosophy of our Constitution is that there is devolution and there is national government, and that certain functions are devolved, and that's how the county governments come in place. So how do you bring in the national government with the CDF? He should be telling us, and again, this is where we hold MPs to account. Why would we be having bursaries, for example, all over the place, MPs with bursary, MCAs with bursary, the government with bursary, the county governments with bursary? So if this money is so much, why don't we put it all in one kitty and say education is free? And it funds education, so that we don't have everybody running around their pocket of money. So CDF, in our current constitutional dispensation, sits unconstitutionally. Even if you go and open the constitution and put it in there, it will be inconsistent with aspects of the constitution. Like when he says that putting an official leader of opposition in our current constitution, it is unconstitutional, because the design of our constitution does not contemplate an official opposition, because there's no such a thing. Okay. What you have is a leader of majority and a leader of minority. And that you have government, even in parliament, is an arm of government. So you can't say that there's an opposition in the parliament.
What do you say to that approach where, according to what Bwanaruku feels, they will simply cherry pick what they like, what they don't like, they leave out? Do you think that's the best approach with this kind of political consensus?
That is very consistent with our members of parliament. They choose what is in their interest, not what is in the national interest, not what is good for the nation or for the constitution. But if it's good for them, yeah, they'll pick it.
And that brings me to the next discussion, and it's on how Raila's bid for the AU job will affect so many other discussions locally. Bwana Raila Odinga had even said that if this NADCO report does not go through Parliament and passed by Parliament, that there was still that option of going back to the streets. Now with this new conversation about a possible employment in a top AU position, do you think that conversation can still continue the way it was? Or do you think that in itself dilutes this debate about the NADCO?
You know, Fred, one of the biggest interests in Kenya, or one of the biggest thing in Kenya is interest. Do you know who are campaigning for Raila to be AU Commission Chairman? Mm-hmm. Kenya Kwanza. You smell a rat. It's not about Kenyans. It's about getting your opponent out of the way. Getting what the children call mandu-mandu, you know, the maandamano out of the way. So when you see Kenya Kwanza, you know, Moses Kuria, you know, all the opponents of Raila saying, yeah, he's the best fellow to go and do it. It's not about Kenyans. It is only about sorting out your opponents, and that's it. So, NADCO report is not about Kenyans. It's just about a few fellows sitting down and.
Do you see it surviving without Raila's presence? If at all,
it will not survive. It's only it's just some good you know, gimmicks. I want to tell Mheshimiwa here that if they go and touch the constitution in an constitutional way, we will be out here going to court, because that's what we do out here. Sisi kazi yetu kwenda kotini na kupinga hao waheshimiwa, kuambia the philosophy of this constitution is not being adhered to. So I'm preparing him to tender change, but we will be there telling them, no way, this is not the right way to go.
Let's focus a bit more on this issue of the AU job for Raila Odinga. Yes, Bwana Ruku.
Raila Odinga has expressed his interest to run or to seek the job as the chairman of African Union Commission. It is not Kenya Kwanza, it's not the president who has told Raila Odinga, please go for this. No.
Yet you spent time at the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary retreat to actually endorse and announce your endorsement as a party for Raila's candidature. Is it that there were no other candidates or possible candidates for this job?
In our retreat, we never discussed anything to do with it.
It is in the papers that Kenya Kwanza MPs endorsed at the parliamentary group meeting.
I was in that meeting.
Maybe again, this is like the national authority one where he said he's not aware. The Kenya Kwanza government has made it official through the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and the resources of the Kenya government have been put behind.
And the leader of majority is on record as having said this at the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting, that as a party they will support that candidature.
So he is actually your candidate. He's a Kenya Kwanza candidate.
Raila Odinga expresses interest to run for that position. And it is good for us as Kenya Kwanza to support him. Because why? Look at it. Raila Odinga is the only guy, I think, in Africa who knows the history of each and every country, from pre-independence of that nation to today, whether it is South Africa, whether it is Egypt, whether it is Libya, whether it is Nigeria, whether it is Ghana, whether it is Zimbabwe, or African nation. Raila Odinga will tell you how it started, how they fought for the independence, how they organized themselves, all the way to now. He's a Pan-Africanist par excellence. So he's the most appropriate guy to be the chairman of African Union Commission.
Do you feel a bit off describing Raila in those favorable terms?
No.
It's a newfound way of talking about Raila Odinga. Up until now, you've not had very beautiful words about this leader of India.
That's why I told you that you smell a rat when you hear this kind of accolades coming from Kenya Kwanza about Raila. Hey, what is this new revelation that so far? Well, of course, we know that he knows.
There could have been many other candidates. The former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, for example. The Wiper Party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, is also a possible candidate for such a job. Why did Kenya Kwanza settle on Raila Odinga?
Uhuru Kenyatta is not a Pan-Africanist. Kalonzo Musyoka is not a Pan-Africanist. The only guy who is a true Pan-Africanist is Raila Odinga. And there are very few in Africa. Is Raila Odinga, is Pierre Lumumba, is this young man from South Africa called Malema, is a true Pan-Africanist also, a guy who's champion and fight for the interest of African nation. You know, talks about the unity of Africa, talks about you know, Africa which does not have boundaries, colonial boundaries. So Raila Odinga fits very well for this position, and that's why we are supporting as Kenya Kwanza. We are not supporting him as Kenya Kwanza so that he may not be in the race.
But it is convenient
what if,
by the way,
in 2027.
By the way, it is very easy to deal with Raila Odinga at the presidential elections than dealing with Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo Musyoka does not have clear enemies that we can say now in Mount Kenya. Kalonzo Musyoka is a total enemy of Mount Kenya.
Okay.
So it's more dangerous to deal with Kalonzo Musyoka as a presidential candidate supported by the base of Raila than Raila himself.
Dr. Olo, I want to get your sentiments on this move. Yes, you may read some sinister motive from the part of Kenya Kwanza, but if successful, this move by Raila Odinga, if at all he gets a job, could shift the politics of this country in a very huge way. What is your assessment of that? Was it expected that it would happen this soon, and what would the effect be, both in the alternative government side and in the government side as well?
You see, as I've said, it's a very interesting turn of events because it is Kenya Kwanza government that is frauding Raila, who is their major opponent in terms of the votes he got as compared to the votes that Kenya Kwanza got. To that extent, it is their project to have Raila out of the way, and that's very important. How does that work for Kenyans? And I think Mheshimiwa Ruku touches it. It's easier to fight Raila. It's easier to target Raila. He's like a Goliath. When you throw a stone at him, you can't miss him. But it is going to be very difficult for them to know what kind of tectonic movement shifts that will happen. And if Kenyans decide to support anybody, that is going to be dangerous for them because then at least they know how Raila operates. Actually, Raila is a very weak opponent, if you ask me, because these guys know him very well. But if you were to find Kenyans behind somebody like Kibaki, you remember when Kibaki was being supported by Kenyans, nobody was giving him a chance, but because he wasn't very dangerous, he wasn't very, and you know, there were no enemies directly that he had, and so it was easier for Kenyans to coalesce around him. And once the bigger groups, including Raila and others, said Kibaki Tosha, it was easier to push him. So yeah, they should be very worried that when they are getting rid of Raila, actually they are helping the rest of the opposition to organize itself. And they're helping the rest of Kenyans, especially their former supporters, the people who had a lot of hope in them, the hustlers and whatnot, who are now very disenchanted. They will be very happy to go to a different formation without a known enemy like Raila. So yes, it's going to organize. And for the first time also, we need to think of life after Raila, or political life without Raila.
What would be the political life without Raila, especially for the parties affiliated to Azimio? Because they already look like they're going to fall into fragments very soon.
You see, there's a similarity between Raila and Ruto in the sense that they want total loyalty to themselves. When you remove Raila from Luo Nyanza, you allow people to be free a little bit to make choices, to go to Mheshimiwa Ruku's group and so on. So there will be some movement there, and that's healthy for democracy. So what you are saying is that that kind of loyalty will go with him, or even once he's out there in AU, it's not expected that people will be looking and fearing what he'll say and so on, because he's not expected to be playing Kenyan politics. He's now, as Mheshimiwa says, he should be playing the Pan-Africanist politics, and he should be busy walking around and flying with heads of state, not coming to work in, going to Rinyenjes or Siakago to try and do politics there. And that will sort it out. That allows room for people to reorganize and for people to breathe fresh. The likes of Miguna and others can now come back without, being chased away. So people say, look, and by the way, Raila he's going to AU is going to be very good, because if Kenya Kwanza are the ones saying that he's good for it, Even Orengo the other day said he's good for it. So even Maguna or anybody else will say, that's the best thing. So everybody will agree. And that will leave room for people now to think about what they need to do.
But would that in itself make it even easier for Kenya Kwanza, that lack of a unifying factor in the opposition, of course, means success for Kenya Kwanza? Because many people feel that the Azimio, probably they could get one person to unify them. That person we are looking for and we are not seeing as it is.
No, there is, actually, this is very serious stuff. It's Raila is an easier opponent for Kenya Kwanza, and you heard it from Mheshimiwa. Absence of Raila is actually difficult for Kenya Kwanza because...
So you see a possible unifying factor in the opposition?
You see, already incumbency has its own problems. So people tend to vote against incumbency. People tend to be dissatisfied with what they know, but they tend to be happy with what they don't know. I mean, when people are being told about a hustler thing, I don't think they knew anything. But the reality is now what is dawning to them. So give them a narrative. People will follow that new narrative. So it is actually not the good, or rather, but they should celebrate. Let them support Raila to go. But it's not good for Kenya Kwanza not to have an enemy that you know like Raila, and allow Kenyans to coalesce around somebody who they can say, "Bas, this is an alternative." So, yeah.
A double-edged sword?
Economies are going into recession. Britain economy is officially in recession. We are seeing German economy also heading into recession. Many economies in the world are going, especially the West, are going into recession. We have seen United States of America economy struggling. And when these major economies struggle, you expect small economies like Kenya economy also to struggle. When I hear my brother here, Wakili, saying that many Kenyans are completely dissatisfied with the policies or the programs of Kenya Kwanza, I don't know whether you remember, there was a demonstration at Kibera, at Milimani Court the other day, when the contractors of housing, affordable housing program, stopped the reparers, the casual reparers, not to go to work because of the ruling of the court. They went demonstrating until the government came out strongly saying, for the contractors who are working, if you are going to stop the construction because of the ruling of the court, then we'll get that contract done by another person. So the common man, those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, I can assure you they are getting...
They're happy, huh?
They are happy with the policies because they are seeing things. If the cost of product, consumable like unga and other products, the prices have gone down. If it's a question of creation of jobs, for those who did not have jobs, we are seeing not white collar in this case. I'm talking about the skilled reparers, you know, those who know how to use their skills of machinery, carpentry. There are jobs in that sector at the moment, okay? So, and that's why the president has been going all over the country to ensure for those who have been with degrees, different types of degrees, they can be able now to go and work outside there in other economies, and also we can get the money back to our country. Now, we cannot say, and this will be vindicated come 2027, when Kenyans will vote in large numbers for President William Ruto again to be the president for a second term.
Okay. Wrap it up for us, Dr. Olo.
I respect his view, but not all Kenyans are skilled laborers. Not all Kenyans are meant to go out of the country to work. And no government ever, no government in the world ever takes power in order to export manpower to other countries. Governments take power to create opportunities, employment opportunities, and to create life good for its people. So to say that the best thing that this government can do to us is to send nurses to Saudi Arabia and send some skilled fellows to some work is a confirmation of the desperation that Kenyans are in. That casual labor is just about the best that they can get going. So that, in my view, is to say that Kenya Kwanza still needs to create opportunities and jobs for local Kenyans and to ensure that the economy is doing well. Yes, the other economies are shrinking, but we are here to expect that our economy should also work. I wish he was telling us that Kenya Kwanza is now at least knowing that we are cutting back costs, we are spending less because things are bad. They are going for 4.2 trillion budget in 2024-2025. We are not living in our times. We are operating as if everything is okay when things are actually very, very bad. And in times like this, you need a leader like the one who arrived in Argentina the other day, cutting back ministries, cutting back public expenditure to spur growth, not to continue public expenditure. That doesn't spur growth.
Let me say this.
Yes.
From 2008 to now, no other head of state in Africa has ever received a state visit in the United States of America. The last one was Mwai Kibaki. The second one will be William Ruto in May. Now, the question is, why is the government of the United States of America giving William Ruto such an honor for a state visit? It's because William Ruto is making very difficult decisions, very difficult right decision to take this nation in the right trajectory. Very unpopular decisions, which can jeopardize his re-election. But right decision for the right moment and difficult decisions so that the future of this nation can be where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And
I'll talk about that in our next.
That is why.
But I can give you 1 minute to actually respond to that.
That is why he's receiving a state visit.
Okay.
An honor to have a state visit with all the courtesy, with all the diplomatic, honor of a state visit in the United States of America.
Okay. It's only fair that I give you a minute to talk about that
as well. Recognized as taking difficult decisions, which are the right decision to do, and which the opposition or the guys who are fighting him can easily turn them to be a baggage on his administration.
Fred, I want to tell Mheshimiwa here that when Kenya was fighting for independence, it was so that we could be able to be self-governing. To tell me that the honor is to be given a state visit in America or in the UK is the height of imperialism. It's the real negation of what our independence is about. Whenever a head of state is being recognized by some of these powers, be very, very worried. Be very worried. It's not in our interest. It is in their interest.
Okay.
Nobody ever makes a lunch because they love humanity. No.
There's nothing like free lunch.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin Otieno, Dr. Martin Olo,
Yes.
Lawyer and political analyst, and Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North. Our panelists this morning, as we take a look at the state of the nation and the big headlines, matters to do with money, Raila Odinga's bid to the AU, and of course the parliamentary agenda, now that Parliament is now focusing on the affordable housing bill and the NADCO report. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having time for us. Straight to editorial comment this morning, today being the International Mother Language Day. Now, as the world marks International Mother Language Day today, we are reminded of the paramount importance of promoting indigenous languages worldwide. The celebration, established by UNESCO in 1999 and recognized by the United Nations General Assembly in 2002, serves as an important reminder of the linguistic and cultural richness that exists in our global community. In Kenya, a nation blessed with over 60 distinct languages, the significance of the linguistic diversity cannot be overstated. Rather than serving as a source of division, this multitude of languages should be hailed as a unifying force, binding communities together through the celebration of their unique identities. The preservation and protection of indigenous languages are not merely acts of cultural nourishment. They are fundamental rights deserving of our utmost attention and support. Language is the cornerstone of cultural expression, capturing traditions, histories, and worldviews that are passed down through generations. When a language is lost, a piece of humanity's collective heritage vanishes with it. Moreover, promoting multilingualism fosters inclusivity and empowers individuals to fully participate in social, economic, and political spheres. By embracing linguistic diversity, we create pathways for equitable access to education, employment, and civic engagement, ensuring that no one is left behind. As we commemorate International Mother Language Day, let us reaffirm our commitment to championing linguistic diversity in all its forms. Let us recognize the invaluable contributions of indigenous languages